involved in the conversation. I would love to hear what you have to say of all of the things that happened over the weekend. TPT at TPUSA.com, and you can participate in the conversation that we'll likely have tomorrow. I personally would like to focus on the media's coverage of the Iranian situation, but I'd like to hear from you. What do you think about the media covering it? What do you think about the protests or lack thereof? Who's celebrating? Who's not? What do you think of President Trump's decision? All of those things are open to you to participate. TPT at TPUSA.com. The good news is we have lots of footage to get to from America Fest. So we're going to get to some of those interviews now. Some of the ones that I think we're going to play tonight are fantastic. Now, I do want to mention we have gotten a couple emails about the noise. We've tried to pick some that were the least noisy in the room. I know it was not the most ideal situation to have the interviews, but that's just the nature of events like this. We were on Media Row. We were smack dab in the middle of everything going on, which is exactly where you want to be, but also it gets a little bit noisy sometimes. So we did try to find some of the interviews where not a ton of people were going around saying a bunch of things, being very, very loud. But at the same time, it's just kind of the things that we got to deal with when we're in a situation like that. So appreciate you tuning in. We will get to the full Iran discussion tomorrow, which you can participate in by sending an email, tpt at tpusa.com. Any of your thoughts, all of your thoughts. And remember, if your thoughts are gross, disgusting, vile, and just downright nasty, it'll actually fit in with what we do here on the show. So feel free to send all of those, tpt at tpusa.com. For right now, please enjoy some of the fantastic footage that we got from America Fest not all that long ago.
And I've learned this in combat, I've learned this in politics, I've learned it everywhere. I will tell you, if we were smart about this, we would just say, oh, did you assault someone on stage? Octagon. Right? You go right to the octagon.
Physical combat.
Yeah, there is something transformative about first taking on the responsibility of being a husband or a wife, and then taking on the responsibility of being a parent.
You just left it out, you know? It wasn't really like a big part of like conversation or things that you did or talked about, just because when you're dealing with sponsors, essentially, you're just trying not to offend anyone.
Yes. Okay. Publicly,
yeah,
but like privately,
yeah.
Do you have these discussions with your team? Did you have other drivers? You talked about being on the road with Trump, in Trump Force One, flying back and forth. Speaking of sleep, everybody on his team goes, okay, if you're on his plane, you can't sleep because he doesn't sleep.
No.
Did you experience that?
Oh,
and what was that like?
That's exactly.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Most people know the biblical story of David, the shepherd boy who fought Goliath and became king. Well, Angel Studios has created a new animated film called David that tells the story of Israel's greatest king.
There's a light I've always followed when I'm looking for the way, when I'm searching for the answer, in the moments I'm afraid. There's a whisper in the wind, and a story in the sky, when I'm looking for a lantern to illuminate the night. If you want the secret of freedom and feeling alive, you gotta follow the light. Follow the light.
For those who love great animated classics like The Lion King and Prince of Egypt, David is an awe-inspiring animated musical that depicts David as a spirited boy who fought lions, giants, and even betrayal, depicting how one boy's faith could lead him to be king of Israel. David will be released in theaters just in time for Christmas on December 19th, but your family can get a head start by watching the prequel to the film, Young David, which is streaming exclusively right now on Angel. It's perfect for the entire family and has memorable music. So once you join the Angel Guild, you can start watching Young David right now and prepare the fam for the David film in theaters in December. And by joining the Guild, you'll guarantee 2 free tickets to see it. And it's a great value. Let's be honest, going to the movies isn't all that cheap. But if you're a member of the Angel Guild, not only do you get those 2 free tickets to David, but you'll now have access to every single film or TV series on Angel at your convenience anytime. So just go to angel.com/Rav and join there.
Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. Backed by millions of monthly listeners.
What's happening? Because of The Real Voice, man. I watch it all the time.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Real America's Voice gives sponsors the chance to put their product front and center, displayed on screen and highlighted by our anchors during exclusive segments and live events.
Head to freetrumpknife.com.
This means your brand becomes part of the conversation as it happens.
Secure your spot before it's too late.
Join us today and make your brand part of the news conversation that America.
Nick Freitas, the man whose backyard I envy the most on the internet, which is odd. Why do I know what your backyard looks like? But honest to God, that porch is how much do you think? How much can you attribute your online video success to the view?
Between the view and my back porch, smart alecky coffee mugs, and probably my Yorkie. I think that's 90% of my audience. Like most people are here, like, where's your wife or where's your mug or where's your dog? Like, it's not, they don't care about me.
Dude, so, okay, yesterday I saw the clip of your speech. Who was that kid? Did you actually know that kid? That wasn't actually your cousin.
That's actually my cousin.
Oh, it actually is your cousin.
Yeah, dude, I am an excellent wingman. Yeah.
Oh, I kind of thought it was like a random guy that you said, hey, tell this girl that you're my cousin and we'll play this up and see if you can get a date out of it.
I should charge for that. That might. No, that was. I did that too to my business partner, Nick Hamilton. I was speaking at Convocation at Liberty University, so we had like 12,000 students there, right? And they asked me a question about what we were doing. I said, oh, well, my business partner, Nick Hamilton, said, Nick, stand up. Hey, everybody, he's single. So Nick's like, dude, you got to let me know before you're going to do that so I can, like, up my Instagram profile.
I can put deodorant on.
Right,
I can wear pants. Right? All of the things that I should do to attract a mate. Okay, I'm super curious about your thoughts on this. Let me preface this by saying I don't typically like getting into like the infighting stuff. I kind of think, well, dude, Charlie's thing was like, just make jokes about the left. Like, and there's so much material there, and we all agree on 95% of the things anyway. There's no need to like divide ourselves over the last 5%. It's ridiculous. Having said that, my crusade as of late, and I use that term affectionately, has been the right needs more conservatives. In the sense of, I'm not going to name anybody in particular.
Sure.
There's a lot of people that talk a lot about all the right things, not exactly evident in other components of lifestyle. You're married, kids, own your home, business, all the things that, you know, generally come out of living a conservative lifestyle. Why does it feel like that isn't necessarily enough to convince other people, like, hey, if you do all the things that you're talking about doing, things work out pretty well?
I think it is. See, that's the thing. Conservatives, I joked around with somebody once. I said, look, I don't care where you're on the political spectrum, everybody eats their own at some point. The difference is that the left eats their own after they take power. The right eats their own because they like the taste, right? Like, it's just, they don't need a reason, right? We just like to fight. We're more individualistic with respect to our opinions and thoughts. We don't like to be told what to thought. We're not collectivists. And so I get all that, and I
it's
love
a gift
that.
and a curse.
It's a gift and a curse.
Like, that's the whole thing and the most difficult thing.
Yeah, but one of the reasons, here's what I would like some of the other people that are very, very good at either taking other people, like taking the left to task, but also good at taking each other to task, all right? That gets boring and old really freaking quick. Republicans infighting is just, it drives people away who are trying to figure out whether or not what we believe and whether or not they should be here. Because while it's important to understand what you're fighting against, it's even more important to understand what you're fighting for. And the reason why Charlie could build what he could build, and now that Charlie's gone, everyone is still showing up, and everyone wants to be here, and everyone wants to capture what he was able to create, is because Charlie was excellent at giving people something to fight for. And I've learned this in combat, I've learned this in politics, I've learned it everywhere. The person that knows what they're fighting for is so much more effective. They're so much more there for the long game because they love what they're defending more than they hate what they're fighting against. And so for everyone, like, look, I get it. We got to have our little spats. Here's the other thing that's not healthy. If you want to have a little spat, be a man. Go grab the other guy, sit down, and have your little spat.
No, that's where you're wrong. You gotta go lambast them on Twitter, and then never talk to them in real life. That's the way I've been taught how you're supposed to handle political squabbles.
That is definitely 21st century conflict resolution.
Why though? But why did it get to that point? Right?
It's easy. Well, it's easy, and look, I hear I look at some of the. It's not like I don't take sides in some of these fights going on the right, right? But it's one of these things where it's so much easier to just get pissed on social media than it is to sit. And this is the part where I feel like we owe it to each other. Mm-hmm. So when I look at, I'll just come right out. I'll give you an example. All right, Tucker has taken some stances recently that I don't agree with. Mm-hmm. I'm incredibly grateful for the work that Tucker has done throughout his life. Mm-hmm. I feel like on some level, to the extent that I had a disagreement with Tucker about something, I would want to have that disagreement with him to see, is there a way that we resolve this, or is the way that we better understand one another? Mm-hmm. And I'll give a perfect example of this. We just did a series on our podcast called What Should the Right Want? Right? So once again, not what we're fighting, we already know all that. What should we want? And we had people on there that excoriate each other on X, right? That do not, there is bad blood, and part of it because some people have just acted like dicks on social media, right? Part of my language. But you sit down and you ask, like, hey, dude, we've identified the problem. What do you want? What should we want? What should we do? And you listen to each of these people describe separately what they want, and you realize, cool, there's like a 10% difference.
Yeah, we agree mostly on the same things.
Yeah, and some of those differences are still significant, but I will tell you this, as I talk to a bunch of people who fight relentlessly on social media from the right, I could live in any country any one of those guys designed. Right? I can't live in any country the woke designs.
Yeah.
I can't live in any country that, Islam designs, right? But I could live in the countries they would design.
What was the conclusion of that series? Sum it up for me. Obviously, it's world domination.
That's for me. Well, here's what I ended up finding out. I'm the radical. Right? I thought some of these guys were like, everyone tells me Doug Wilson's a crazy Christian nationalist. I'm like, I listen to Doug talk, and it's like, this actually seems pretty reasonable. In fact, he's not advocating for taking back Constantinople, but I am. like, Doug, you need to up your game, right? You're looking too narrow. You just want to take over America? There are lands to conquer, my friend.
That sounds like a T-shirt. What is Istanbul?
Yeah, never heard of it. But no, it's still ongoing, but it's been a fascinating conversation with guys like Michael Knowles and James Lindsay and Orrin McIntyre and Doug Wilson and Steve Turley, and we got others more lined up that we want to talk to. But the bottom line is there's just not a huge amount of difference between what these guys actually want as an end state.
And so how does that translate, though, like in terms of coalition building? Because that's what Charlie was the best at.
Oh, yeah.
Like bringing in, and then also, too, part of the reason why I generally stay out of the online squabbles is, one, nobody will be over tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, nobody will remember it next week.
Yeah.
And two, because obviously the bigger focus is, well, we do agree on 90% of things, and let's go make sure we take that 90% of things that we agree on and go crush the other side.
Yeah.
Because politically speaking, once you build the coalition, winners make policy, losers go home, and you have to win in order to do the things that matter. So how does that translate to you, or the way that you see it from your perspective now?
From what we were trying to do, it was kind of like this first step of like, okay, if we can establish that the differences are not so great that we would not be able to live in a country that the other person designed. Okay, now why don't we move these questions into interesting conversations that we can have as friends?
Yeah.
Because a lot of them are interesting conversations. And look, I've had people cause me to think about things differently than I thought about them before, but just giving them the opportunity to explain what they meant. I think that's part of important. But that includes the not insulting one another. That's the difference, right? If you disagree with me, we can have a conversation. But the way men are wired, you insult me like, all right, punk, let's do this thing, right? Especially conservative men, because we're a little bit more geared up to, you want to, and every man kind of understands that there's this unwritten rule that we can have a great conversation, we can disagree, we can be respectful, but the moment it goes a certain line, it's like, no, I'm just hitting you now, right?
Yeah.
And that's healthy for polite society.
Yeah.
But what I found and what I was actually encouraged by was the fact that there is a lot of ground to work from. But we need people to stop taking their little personal squabbles. Erica said it best the other day. She goes, it feels like a family at Thanksgiving airing out all the dirty laundry like in front of everyone.
Yeah.
And there's a part of it that's like, okay, fine. And there's a part of it too where it's like, hey, dude, chill out.
Yeah.
You've got literally tens of thousands of students here that are actually looking for something to fight for.
Yeah.
So why don't we put the emphasis on that, right? And we can still have those respectful conversations in a way that could actually be productive.
Yeah.
But the nitpicking at one another is not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between discussion and attacks. Yeah, I think you said that right.
Yeah.
Once you insult somebody, all hell breaks loose. Then what are you doing?
Now, look, I will tell you, if we were smart about this, we would just say, oh, did you insult someone on stage? Octagon. Right? You go right to the octagon.
Physical combat.
Yeah, we're gonna give you pugil sticks, maybe pillows. You can have a pillow fight in the octagon, but the moment you insult one of your fellows on stage, you gotta fight it out.
Well, it is. I don't really want to go off on this tangent, but it is interesting that ultimately, at the end of the day, physical force in terms of nation states is the actual deciding factor. You can make the greatest arguments in the world, but we have a bigger military than yours.
Well, that Dave Chappelle bit that he did, where it's like he's sitting there like Dave Chappelle's president, and he's like, you know what you should do? You should sanction me. You should sanction me with your army. Oh, you don't have an army. Maybe you should shut the hell up.
So one of the things I think, not necessarily wrong, but it's an interesting thing, the fascination with federal politics, right?
Yeah.
People talk about Congress, they talk about Trump. If you go on the New York Times website, every single story has Trump something related to it. Like, oh, hey, there's a new water tax in Mozambique, and President Trump thinks that, well, okay, what the?
Yeah.
You were in the state elected office.
Yeah.
Are you still in the
I'm still.
You're still okay. So
for
you're
like another 4 weeks.
Okay, so you're still in the state legislature.
Yeah.
Can you describe the accessibility on that level?
Oh.
Because everybody's so fixated on D.C. that they forget, 3 or 4 calls to their state legislature, the state legislature starts to panic because they never get any interest.
Richmond is doing far more to screw up Virginia than the federal government is, with the exception of monetary policy. But that's another conversation. So first of all, your state laws are doing far more to impact your daily life than anything that's happening at the federal level most days. And then on top of that, dudes just randomly show up to my office, and I always sit there and talk to them, and we come in and we have a 15-minute conversation. They see me at Walmart. Yeah. Right? So I've gotten in policy conversations in the bread aisle, right? So we're far more accessible, and chances are we can do far more for you in most cases with respect to what you actually want to deal with. Far easier to get in contact with, and we're generally doing more to screw up your life. So we're the ones you want to talk to, right? So
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Most people know the biblical story of David, the shepherd boy who fought Goliath and became king. Well, Angel Studios has created a new animated film called David that tells the story of Israel's greatest king.
Followed when I'm looking for the way, when I'm searching for the answer, in the moments I'm afraid. There's a whisper in the wind, and a story in the sky, when I'm looking for a lantern to illuminate the night. If you want the secret of freedom and feeling alive, you gotta follow the light. Follow the light.
For those who love great animated classics like The Lion King and Prince of Egypt, David is an awe-inspiring animated musical that depicts David as a spirited boy who fought lions, giants, and even betrayal, depicting how one boy's faith could lead him to be king of Israel. David will be released in theaters just in time for Christmas on December 19th, but your family can get a head start by watching the prequel to the film, Young David, which is streaming exclusively right now on Angel. It's perfect for the entire family and has memorable music. So once you join the Angel Guild, you can start watching Young David right now and prepare the fam for the David film in theaters in December. And by joining the Guild, you'll guarantee 2 free tickets to see it. And it's a great value. Let's be honest, going to the movies isn't all that cheap. But if you're a member of the Angel Guild, not only do you get those 2 free tickets to David, But you'll now have access to every single film or TV series on Angel at your convenience anytime. So just go to angel.com/Rav and join there.
Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. Backed by millions of monthly listeners.
But I'm just curious, like...
No,
well, because the question is, like, you seem like a relatively normal guy. What the hell were you thinking running for a political office?
Dude, the friend that convinced me to run for office, we're still like best friends, but I look at him all the time like, you punk.
You idiot. Why did you do this to me?
Oh, yeah. I always tell people this. You always find, if you're in any elected office, somebody is going to say, you should run for president. Like, no. Like, do you have any idea? Like, how, so, look, I had the opportunity to represent James Madison's district in the Virginia House of Delegates, the oldest, longest-serving, legislative body in the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah,
tremendous honor, and there's so many like fond memories I'm taking away from all of that. But I never got my identity from serving in the House of Delegates, never. And one of the differences that you find is that one, it's tough to be a conservative, and the only reason I say that is because you end up having to tell your friends who are also conservatives no a lot.
No.
Because every conservative hates government spending until it's their government spending.
Yeah.
They hate government intervention until it's the one they want. And when you're trying to take a principled stance, it gets tiring year after year telling people that you like, that voted for you and everything, like, hey, I'm sorry, brother, I would donate it to that personally, I would help you with that personally. But I'm not telling my constituents to pay for this.
Yeah, it's just not a good use of funds.
It sucks, yeah, it sucks. But
what's the dynamic like in the state legislatures? Because obviously you get all this grandstanding in Congress, and people come out and they say all these things, and then they go to dinner together, which I think is actually a good thing. Like, I think it's good. But what is that dynamic like on the state level, where there's not this fixation of attention constantly on it in the spotlight?
It's I would say, one, there's a lot fewer of us. We've got 100 delegates as opposed to 430 whatever members of the House up there. So 100 delegates, 40 senators. So it's a much smaller group. Plus, 46 out of the 50 states have what we call citizen legislatures, which means we go down to Richmond for 60 days in even years, 45 and on.
Oh.
You do everything in 60 days. So it's a marathon. You go down there, we'll see 2,000 bills in 60 days. So you go in there, do your job, and you get back to your district. Not to mention the fact they don't pay you enough to live on.
I was going to say, what's the pay like that?
$17,500 a year for a delegate.
No way.
And then you get an office budget.
So it's super interesting because I was running races in California. And that was the thing. Well, so that's the thing. Well, full time, it puts you in the upper tax bracket is what it does once you count your per diem and your actual salary. And it's fascinating to go to different states because they wonder, like, well, how is there so much money in politics in California? Yeah, well, because the job is extremely coveted because of how much money they pay. So is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Bad. No, I don't think Congress should be a full-time legislature.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing about a citizen legislature is, one, when you're in Richmond, here's what I've noticed about Richmond, right? As a member of the august Virginia House of Delegates.
Yes.
When I'm at home, I'm Nick, right? Or I'm a husband, or I'm a father, and I am not at all cool in any specific way. They love me, right? But and when I'm walking around town, like, oh, hey, Nick, what's up? You get down to Richmond, you're in session. Everybody wants your attention. All of a sudden, I'm good-looking, funny, right? Like, because somebody wants.
It's a real ego boost.
Oh my gosh! Like, I see how people get just addicted to this idea of being important.
Yeah.
And so, with a citizen legislature, you only get that for 60 days. Then you get your ass home to your district where you're not so cool
humbled
anymore.
by your wife who needs chores done.
Exactly, right? You're cleaning toilets, right? And again, you're not making enough money to make this a lucrative job.
Yeah.
You're expected to have a real job. This is your term of service, not your occupation.
Yeah.
And so I think that's an incredibly healthy way for us to look at our legislature overall. Are there downsides to it? Yes, right? You have a higher turnover rate. You don't have as many. And some people think that's always a good thing. It's not always a good thing. It's usually a good thing.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't develop the same level of expertise that you would in a particular field or whatnot. But that just goes back to my opinion, which is that's because the government shouldn't be doing as much as it's doing. You actually have more humility when you realize that this isn't your full-time job. and you're down there to do a couple of important things and then get back home and remember what real life is.
So, I mean, obviously we have different perspectives. Conservatives, liberals have different perspectives on the outlook of, well, just what life is. Thomas Sowell wrote a book called Conflict of Visions, where he talks about like the constrained versus the unconstrained, and you can kind of translate that to be individual versus external. And the divide, he kind of argues, is that people just have differences of how they view the world.
Yes.
One, do you think that those differences are compatible with each other, or can they be? And if not, what do you do about that?
So, okay, once upon a time, when you looked at the United States as like, okay, we all kind of recognize that we were founded on Christian principles and that our system of government is built around these kind of like, these traditions that come from Christianity, from English common law, from all of that. You had this kind of shared understanding of what the government was there to do, what it was not there to do, and why were you an American? Well, you wanted opportunity, you wanted political freedom, so you could live your life, not so the government could take care of you. So when you have opposing views within that fundamental framework, there's plenty of room for disagreement, peaceful coexistence, everything else. The modern conception of leftism, there is no peaceful coexistence with that.
Yeah.
Because they are not. I am willing to let them be as liberal as they want to be in their personal lives.
Yeah.
In fact, if every commie in America wanted to get together, buy a bunch of property, and have a little commune, not only would I not bother them, I would try to lower their property taxes. Right? I don't care. Like, do what you want. But it's not good enough for them to have the freedom to live the way they want. No, you must be forced to subsidize it. You must be forced to participate. You must be forced to celebrate it, or else there will be consequences. All right, fine. Well, I didn't create these conditions. You created these conditions, and I refuse to live under the conditions you've created. And this is the part where I go back to, look, it wasn't just when Charlie was murdered that we realized something had changed. It was when we saw the left react to it.
Yeah.
Right? Look, if I would have got shot somewhere, I know me, I've seen me, I would have understood why somebody might want to. Charlie did everything within his power to try to do peaceful resolution and conversation and discussion, and they hated it because he was so good at it.
Yeah.
He was so good at it. And so I think we need to understand, I don't want there to be conflict, I don't want there to be civil war, I don't want to be any of that, right? But I also recognize that their worldview does not allow for peaceful coexistence with me. That was their choice, not mine. But I'm not submitting to it.
You're obviously very good at making a case in an argument, as exemplified by your social media presence and ability to connect with people.
Well, I read a lot of Thomas Sowell. So.
It's dense.
Oh, he's awesome. I love that guy. Yeah.
So, part of the problem with, conservative politics just in general is if you're explaining you're losing, that's kind of a broad term political difficulty. But conservatism requires nuance, always. Is it possible to fix the messaging to be able to distill it down a little bit more? Because conservatives, and I say, well, Republicans just in general, are notoriously bad at messaging, i.e. the stupid shutdown thing that took 40 days to explain why we don't want to give legal subsidized healthcare.
Right.
Like, how do you think we bridge that gap from creator to actual elected official?
I think one of the problems that we have right now is that we're expecting to be able to accomplish things in an environment where it's not possible. And so we think that if we just made a better argument, that's what would change it. And the problem is this. You have a generation of kids growing up in schools and educational institutions that have been taught the left-wing worldview, not only as one of many worldviews, but as the moral worldview. And so we're not just fighting an argument about fiscal policy or the allocation of resources. We're fighting with people that have been taught to believe we're evil.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to break through that before you can even get to that argument. But here's my question. Conservatives, like we always talk about birth rates, right? There's no birth rate problem in the conservative movement.
No.
There's a birth rate problem in the left. Why? Because they abort their kids and then they, transition them so they can't have kids, right?
Yeah.
So they're losing. So how do they keep staying ahead? They educate ours.
Yeah.
You want to win this thing in one generation? Get married, have kids, don't let the government educate them.
Yeah.
You take responsibility for the education, upbringing of your child. And within one generation, we win. Why? Because the operational environment in which we are making our arguments is completely different from what it is right now. If you let the left craft the environment, and then make a really good argument in an environment where they think logic is a tool of the patriarchy, right? You're going to lose.
And being on time.
Right. So I always tell people this, like, look, go have your fights on X. Go have your fight. Engage in the political, process. You have to. We have to, right? We can't surrender it. But if you're doing it at the expense of your relationship and the education of your own children, you're creating your future opponents by your neglect. But if you invest that time, you know what I know? Here's what I achieved after all those years of homeschooling. All of my kids love Jesus, know what they believe, and cannot stand Karl Marx. Right? Mission accomplished, dude.
That's great.
They're all pro-life voters. They're all, so let's create the electorate that we can convince with sound argumentation. But let's not be surprised when it's impossible to convince people that have been taught that argumentation is evil or bad.
So we're going to outbreed them, is what I'm hearing. Perfect.
Yeah, and good news, kids, turns out, really fun to make.
Fun to make, fun to practice.
Yeah. It's a win-win all around.
There's a lot of... I'm curious, and I don't want to, put too much of your process out there.
Yeah.
How much do you think about those videos that you're recording with your coffee? Do you go through a process? Obviously, you're probably past the point of having a script if you ever did.
No, I don't script those. I don't do well, like the speech the other day. I don't do well with written. I can't write out a speech.
Yeah.
If I write out a speech, it just screws everything up. It's much more fun to kind of go out there and know what you're going to say, pray about what you're going to say, like ask God, like, all right, God, I'm going to tell everyone I'm a Christian, so if I blow this, it's going to look bad on both of us, right?
Yeah.
So help me out here.
Yeah.
That's more fun. Talk about things that you know and you're passionate about, and you'll usually get it right. When it comes to like the short form content, usually all it takes is turning on the news or seeing, like you said, the left is so easy to mock. I just did a reel this morning on there's this whole movement in Germany now on those like fake horse shows where they're like using a stick horse.
Yes, which some of them are pretty athletic too, by the way. Some of it's
True.
like it's scary and impressive at the same time.
Yes. Well, now they have the same thing for like having a dog. But there is no dog, right? Like you're running it through an obstacle course, but it is no dog. And I'm looking at that going, okay, everyone, I understand why we don't let the Germans have nukes, but let them have dogs, right? They gotta have something, right? So whenever you see a world...
Wait till they get black people involved in that. They're gonna lose all of those races.
So it just goes with, like, a lot of times it's easy enough as switching on the news. Also, when you are married and when you are a parent, you have plenty of content to work with. So a lot of it is just kind of figuring something out and then talking about it in a way you think it'll resonate with people.
Give me your input on this. I feel like in the modern culture there's some people here very I'm motivating. I'm a motivational speaker. Here are all the things you need to do. You need to take ice cold showers. You need to run 90 miles a day. Wake up at 4 a.m. Do all of those things. Not to say that any of those things are bad.
Yeah.
But I think very quickly realized once we had our first kid, it's like, all of that stuff this is the motivator.
I don't like the formulas. Yeah.
Well, and really, all of those, whatever practices need to be put in place.
Yeah.
You have a kid, you don't need any of those. That's the motivation.
No, I think there's kind of a flippant joke that men civilize the wilderness and then women civilize men, and then you have kids and you realize this whole new level of tenderness and care and concern.
Yeah.
So no, I think you're absolutely right. There is something transformative about first taking on the responsibility of being a husband or a wife, and then taking on the responsibility of being a parent. And it does, like, there's things physiologically that happen to you during that process. But again, I think it's part of God's created order, right? These things happen for a reason, and we respond in the ways that we're meant to for a reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a never-ending source of motivation to want to be better for people that you truly love.
Yeah.
It goes back to what we were saying earlier. It's, what am I fighting for? Well, when I'm married and I have kids, I don't question what I'm fighting for.
That was when I told Charlie we were having a baby girl.
Yeah.
Oh, he's very that'll radicalize you.
Yeah.
I thought I was radical before that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my, and that's not even counting my wife. Who is far more radical than I am.
Isn't it true?
People shouldn't be allowed to do things that I don't want them to do. Is her stance on everything. So
I always joke that my wife is going to be the one that gets us demonetized. Right? Like, we'll be sitting. We had somebody ask a question like, "What does it really mean to be non-binary?" And Tina's like, "Oh, I'll tell you what it means. It means you're feeling fat that day." Right? Demi Lovato's, a woman, and then she's feeling fat, and so she's they them, and then she loses weight, and she's feeling like a woman again. That's all it is. I'm looking over her like. That's really funny, baby, but
this is gonna get us in trouble.
Oh my gosh, it's gonna get us in trouble. Yeah,
that's great. Demi Lovato is probably one of the more fun transformations back and forth of just hey, look, you don't have to be like that, and also you'll be way happier.
Yeah. No, definitely. Cool. But you're gonna set it better. You have the kids, and it's
there's your motivation.
And it's true about the little girl. What's crazy about a little girl is on one side you find out what a sap you are. You think you're a tough dude.
You
have a little girl, you're a sap. All of a sudden you're wearing a feather boa, having a tea party, wearing a tiara, right? That's one side. And then on the other side, you're freaking like
radical extremist.
Oh, like I will kill you and everything important to you if you touch my daughter.
Yeah, I just wish, because obviously Governor Newsom watches this entire podcast.
Yes.
All of my guns fell in the lake.
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah, it's continued. I should stop bringing all my guns to the lake. Yeah. But silly me, you can't learn. But that's.
I've now transitioned to the no, Gavin, I still have my guns, and I'll give you my address. Yeah.
That's great.
Good luck. I always said, they keep saying, we want to prevent gun violence. Well, here's a pro tip. Telling 100 million Americans we're coming for your guns, not a good way to prevent gun violence.
I would happen to agree with that. Nick Freitas, thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it. Love what you do. Yeah. Looking forward to the more time that you have now that you're exiting the legislature to be continually snarky on the internet.
Well, no, thank you for what you do, because again, I love your humor. It's great. It's desperately needed. I had this conversation with Brian Callen. I was like, I think the comics are going to save the conservative movement.
Trying to.
Yeah.
Well, because comedy's rooted in truth. Again, it's funny because it's true.
Yeah.
And if it's not true, it's not funny.
Yeah. Very true.
Yeah. Awesome, dude. Thanks so much for taking the time. Appreciate it.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access, plus commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
Danica Patrick, how are you?
I'm good. I'm not nearly as busy as you, I'm sure, but I'm good.
I think you're probably just as busy.
No. This is my last work. I said last year I had 20 minutes, so I thought I had 20 minutes more work, but it's 13 minutes this year. So
you 20 minutes on the main stage?
Last year,
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, 13 minutes live. They're like 5-minute segments at this point because there's so many people here.
I mean, there's so many, and there's so many great people to hear from. But yeah, I mean, I even thought that while the campaigning was going on for the election, like they were like, you'd have 5 minutes on stage, and I had to definitely think about what the heck I was going to say for 5 minutes. So yeah, I definitely had to think about 20 minutes, and I think I lasted 22 or 23, but I definitely had to think about the 13 as well.
Yeah.
You've got the main stage. You also want to say something impactful. You want to say something meaningful, and it's an intimidating situation. So you really got to
say the actual talent is trying to be able to condense in the time frame that you got, because If you mess up, it's not that bad. Only several thousand people and millions watching online will see it.
Boom goes the dynamite.
So you probably don't remember this. I think at the inauguration we talked on the. Oh wait, I guess I have met you in real life before. So sorry that I.
No, I couldn't remember either. I was feeling like I hadn't met you in real life.
Well, this is one of these where it's just everybody's everywhere all the time, and you run into 7,000 people, and you get confused. But I'd asked, you spent an entire career turning left. What made you turn right? And then you said, well, I've always kind of been right. So I'm curious, in the world that you were in prior to coming out as a conservative, what was that like?
Well, within motorsports, but within sports in general, there's an understood exclusion of the topics politics and religion. Like they're just, even when you go do appearances for a company, it'll say like topics to avoid, and it'll list it as politics and religion. So it's just something that just wasn't mentioned. And I think it probably could be imagined that I'd lean conservative because of the nature of the sport that I was in, and especially NASCAR.
I was going to say, yeah, in NASCAR.
Right, exactly. But I mean, you just left it out, you know? It wasn't really like a big part of like conversation or things that you did or talked about, just because it didn't, when you're dealing with sponsors, essentially, you're just trying not to offend anyone.
Yes. Okay. Publicly, but like privately, do you have these discussions with your team? Did you have other drivers? You don't need to out any other drivers.
On the inside, everyone kind of knows where you land.
Really?
Yeah.
Any
That's
surprising
why it's like when
ones?
people are like, oh, you came out as conservative or you campaigned. It's like, but like it probably was imaginable, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, any surprise? You don't have to out people specifically, but were there surprising ones in the NASCAR world where you're like, wow, you're a super lib, didn't see that one coming?
Right. It would be much more shocking that someone was liberal than it would be that they were conservative or Republican. So yeah, there probably are a couple that lean a little bit more left, like, and I think like the people that have lived in different in the countries that are more that direction, whether it be it California or New York or places like that, those are some of the more liberal like beliefs or left-leaning sort of positions that they take. Or maybe call it open-minded even. And if I'm being honest, I'm the kind of person that thinks that the country should be run very conservatively, and I kind of live a little more liberally. Like I definitely think that there should be a general choice in like the way that you want to live. I don't really care. I just don't want you to affect mine. Like because of the way you live, don't tell me how to live my life. And so, but I think that there are definitely ways that I think it leads to maybe a happier, more peaceful, joyful life.
Totally.
But it's not my place to tell someone how to do that or what to believe. I think the best way to do it is to live by example, lead by example, and want people to want your life. They're like, what is it that makes you so happy? And then that's the sort of thing that brings them to whatever their new belief is or evolved belief.
So obviously you've come out as a conservative. You're all over the conservative space. I've also seen you like at the Miami F1 or all of the. Has your political outside? Because obviously you don't talk about Trump on the F1 paddock.
There's definitely no need to talk about it at F1. and I'm doing British. I was doing British Sky Sports, which is England is extremely much more liberal. So,
but has that had any impact? Is like what is that dynamic like now that?
I do. I think that of any place where my campaigning and where my political stance has shown up is probably at F1. That's very insightful for you to see. I don't know, and I don't know if it's all true or not, but like if you read anything on the internet about me, when I first started doing stuff in F1 5 years ago, everyone was like, you're the best, it's awesome, we love what you have to say. And then since all the politics started, it's like, you're horrible, get off air, you suck, you don't know what you're talking about. And so I think maybe that could be a place where it showed up a little bit.
But it hasn't stopped them from bringing you.
Right. And I got into some debates with people at the track. That worked at the network that don't believe the same thing I do. And so that showed up. That definitely showed up.
Interesting. So there's a lot of commentary around athletes or people in any professional sport, once they retire, it's kind of difficult, right? You go from this fast-paced life, no pun intended, in your specific sport, fast-paced lifestyle, boom, boom, here, there, all that, and then it's done.
Yeah.
How did you handle that? What was that transition kind of into normalcy like?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. I definitely had moments in that early retirement where I felt like, this is the phrase I kept thinking in my head, I need to do something with my life.
Yeah.
That's what I was like.
Well, no,
even though I had just like finished doing something with my life, that like people could be like, you're done, right? You're all good. I felt like I was wasting time or a wasting opportunity or wasting something. I felt like worthless in a way. So I think
you
going
felt
from that speed and pace and intensity and attention that I would get on the main stage of racing, to go away from all that made me feel like I needed to, quote, do something with my life.
And so how did you cope with that? What are the kind of the practical things that you did immediately afterwards?
Usually it'd come in like these phases where I'd like be moving along with things, and then all of a sudden I'd get that feeling and I'd be like, I need to do something in my life. And then I'd get on the phone, because I always have had projects going on. Like I own a winery in Napa. For a little while I had a clothing line, speaking engagements, endorsements, television, hosting broadcasts for races. So there's always been stuff going on, but I wouldn't always be pushing and didn't always need to, especially when I was like working every weekend at the racetrack. I didn't need more to do. And so that would be the moment where I'd pick up the phone or start texting and be like, what's going on? What's the update? Why isn't this moving forward? What are we doing here? Like I would like go on an onslaught of text in about an hour and like just get the ball rolling in a bunch of ways to try and get things happening, because I was feeling restless.
So like as a business person, are you kind of the pusher that just go? I
mean, I think that happens at times, but it's really important that you have people that work with you that are self-starters, that know how to do that on their own, that you don't have to call and be like, what's the update? And that you don't have to repeat yourself over and over again. So no, I have good people, but you know, you can't push, like it'd be a matter of, I've definitely been on this, but let me ask again. So I mean, but like business can be very slow. However, a lesson that I think I've learned in business, in opportunities, and in purpose, is that when you're doing something that is meant for you, right? Because I'm caveating it with meant for you versus what you want to do, because sometimes what you think you want to do might not be what's meant for you.
Yes.
It moves really fast when it's meant for you. So like politics was one of those, where as soon as it was, I interviewed RFK at the F1 race 2 years ago at the end of 23, and so I had met him. Then I went to, and then AmFest came in December, so that was November, just F1 race in Vegas. December was AmFest, first political event I ever went to.
Wow.
And then I had met Tucker finally in person, and I didn't even know that Charlie had noticed I was here, but I went and did Tucker's show, I think January 3rd. I flew to Florida and did his show, and then Charlie had reached out and said, I didn't want to bother you, I saw you came to AmFest, I'm so excited, love to have you on my show if you have time. And I was like, great. So then all of a sudden, a couple days later, I'm doing Charlie's show and sitting with him in studio here in town. And then I was like, and I think I made a post that was like, and all of a sudden I'm in politics. And so it like just happened like that. And then it was like, you know, I mean, RFK's team was asking me to run for office for something. I had spoken to his manager, Amaryllis, about it. And then Tulsi I had met. Because of AmFest in 23, I messaged her and said, you did an amazing job. Saw that she already had followed me. And so I was like, wow. And so then we became friends. Interviewed her in February about her book. And then it just kept going. I was getting asked to moderate events. And so I moderated for Tulsi and Bobby at an event. Then I got invited to moderate for JD in North Carolina at an event, and then Tulsi asked me to go along for the whole last week. Laura had asked me to do a bunch of Women for Trump events. So like it went so fast, and all of a sudden I'm sitting next to, I'm sitting right next to Donald Trump on Trump Force One on the way home from the very last rally in Michigan for like 2 hours. I'm like, how did I get here? How did I earn this seat? I have no idea. But it went so fast, and there's been so much reflection from people just about this arena of politics that I should get involved in, and that's not something I would have seen for myself. So other people were seeing things.
Yeah.
So maybe this is something that's meant for me.
Yeah.
Man, it went fast.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access. Plus, commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
Flashosaurus in the chat. I love Real America's Voice because I can watch news being delivered to me live while I chat with the family I love.
This is Giselle Chaffin. I'm from North Carolina. I'd like to let you know that RAV News is the best news. Number one news. Truth seekers seek to find the truth. It'll set you free.
Hi, this is Becky from the Florida Panhandle, and I love watching Real America's Voice for the programming, the hosts, and my Rad Chat family.
Well, I remember, because I'd been involved with Turning Point for quite a while at that point, I remember seeing Charlie's episode and going, Danica Patrick?
Right, sure.
The race car driver? What is? But then, yeah, it happens quickly. I like that. Maybe
have you had that happen for you in your life in any way where you're just like all of a sudden, like, it could be you meet somebody that you fall in love with, right? It could be a job. It could be anything. It could be a hobby. I don't know. Similar trajectory on this whole thing, because really?
I was a consultant for a while, and I was running races, and then decided to build a studio in my garage. One thing led to another. I ended up at Turning Point. Ended up at an event, the YWLS, the Young Women's Leadership Summit, in 22, and this is at the height of Matt Walsh's What is a Woman? And so Matt and Charlie were supposed to headline that event. Okay. Matt was giving a speech somewhere like 2 hours before that, and it's just impossible for him to get there on time. And so 2,500 people in the audience. Charlie says, "Hey, you're a comedian, right?" And I go, "Yeah. Can you go on stage and kill 20 minutes?" And then from there, went on tour with Charlie, been on that for the last 3 years. So yeah, it was a very similar type thing that just kind of happened.
Wasn't Charlie the best at seeing people too, right? I feel like he had such a skill and talent for being able to sort of suss out your potential before you knew it.
Oh, I've said often he believed in me way more than I believed in myself, because I was just and he also recognized. So I've been to a couple Charlie events. Funny dude. He can be funny and he can make funny jokes. One of the problems, I think, was he was such a serious political commentator, people weren't ready to laugh. And so he'd make a joke and it'd just go right over people's heads.
Well, and he's also fairly dry. Like he was, you know, his delivery was so matter-of-factly and so dry that it was like the sarcasm or dryness was kind of like, wait a minute, are we supposed to laugh? Is that funny? Or are you trying to make a point? Are you being mean about this even, right? Like
he made a joke one time at an event. This is prior to me going on the road with him, where he said, yeah, if you're gay in Gaza, they'll give you a flying lesson off the nearest roof. Objectively funny joke. Like, is very, very funny. Nobody laughed because they weren't expecting him to be funny.
Right.
And so I think his insight was like, hey, if I bring this guy on the road with me, I do a couple jokes, mostly, well,
soften
certain
people
topics.
up a little bit.
Loosen them up a bit. That kind of helps the whole event be more loose, and it creates more dialogue, and people laugh when things are funny.
It does.
As opposed to being so rigid.
Bringing a little bit of humor in it is also, I think humor is also a little bit of like humility, right? Like we're kind of poking fun, playing with things, and it allows everyone to soften up and not have to be so buttoned up, perfect, say the right thing. It's not like that. It should be softer than that. It should be a little bit more free than that. And I think humor brings in a lot of humility to people.
Try to make it work like that.
Yeah.
I know we're gonna run to your, but you talked about being on the road with Trump in Trump Force One, flying back and forth. Speaking of sleep, everybody on his team goes, okay, if you're on his plane, you can't sleep because he doesn't sleep.
No.
Did you experience that?
Oh,
and what was that like?
That's exactly right. We landed back in West Palm at like 5:30 or 5:45 in the morning.
In the morning? And nobody had slept?
Well, we didn't get to the last rally until midnight.
This is 2024.
This was November of last year.
Yes. Yeah.
So like a little over a year ago, before the election.
And then what? So now the early morning news shows are on. Do you go do news immediately when you land?
There isn't much more you can do once that day of arrives.
Yeah.
Right? Like people are off to the polls or have already voted for the most part. But no, it's I think I slept for 2 or 3 hours. And then it was election, and then probably went to bed. Oh, I think I had like an 8 a.m. flight out of West Palm home to Phoenix, and I'm pretty sure I slept for 45 minutes that night after election, like election night.
And at that point, do you even get to enjoy the win, or are you just so dead tired that you're just like...
When we're all standing in that huge arena when you saw where, Melania and Trump came in, and the whole family, and like that's the room that we were all in. And like when it's all going down and you're seeing the states go red, like once the third or so, once Pennsylvania goes red, you're like, oh wow, oh my God,
you did it.
So no, it's a total elation. Like you're like, holy crap! And you get a taste of like what that's like as an athlete, or being even around an athlete in a close way, is that how much goes into it. How much goes into it. And so when it just misses, you're like not sure you've got it in you to do it again.
Yeah.
Because it's so much. You've literally done everything you could possibly do. And so when it does go right, it's like such a relief. You're like, oh my God, we did it, right? Like, wow, like it could have gone the other way. And so, it was totally still appreciated moment. But I was really bummed I didn't get to go to Mar-a-Lago. That was the only thing I was really bummed about when I was there. I was like, how am I not in Mar-a-Lago right now? Like, poor me, as if I deserve that, right?
You poor
as
thing.
If I didn't just sit next to him from 3 to 5 a.m. flying home. Like,
not sleeping.
Gosh, Danica, get over yourself.
That's great. Danica Patrick, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Enjoyed the conversation.
Thanks, good to see you.
Fun. Good to see you too. Hope you had a great time watching those interviews. And like I said, I wish I could be here with you in real time tonight because I know a ton of things happened over the weekend. But remember, you can comment on any of that stuff. tpt@tpusa.com is the email address if you'd like to participate in the conversation. That will happen tomorrow. We'd love your thoughts, love your emails, love what you think of it, what's going on, what you think of President Trump's decision, what you think about all the different political factions going crazy. Any of those thoughts are more than welcome. tpt@tpusa.com. We will see you tomorrow, same time, same place. God bless America.